Catalyst Coop here, June 28th, 2015. Just returned from a trip to the lake for a week. That means the gardens were baking in the sun, as we've had great rain this spring, but it has dried up now. So I thought I'd show some quick failures and some successes, I suppose, through the way, but there are a lot of failures happening. And in the permaculture world, they would say that the problem is the solution, and I would agree with that. But sometimes the solution doesn't always come so easily, and I'm still fighting one of them. And that one is this particular species of grass, which I haven't even bothered to try to figure out exactly yet. But in spite of much mulch, see the seed top there, that actually maybe is a windmeal grass as that pops out. Doesn't really matter. The point is this and some foxtail are really being difficult to keep constrained, even with the amount of other seeds. So I've seen some choking out of more beneficial stuff that I want to be growing. So I recognize that the plant itself is providing some shade to the ground. That is a benefit, but there's really no way to come in here in the thickness of stuff and try to weed any of this out, or even dare come in with a weed eater, which inevitably you cut far too many of the desirables. So we'll continue thinking on this and what the solution really is, and that might just be a substantial amount more beneficial seed to compete with this particular grass. Some of these areas you've been looking at right here, this is an area, the only area that had new dirt brought into it. And so when I changed the shape of the driveway, I pulled out that dirt, built up the driveway, and brought in a compost mix. And you can really tell how wilty everything is in these beds, because that compost in heavy amounts is really, it dries up like a wick, it seems like. Whereas over here, and all these plants are not wilted. Sage looks good. Lettuce seeding out. Dill sprinkled all over. Basil. There's some thyme back there. A cherry tomato, I believe. Cowpeas, rhubarb. They all look good in these conditions. In these beds back here that were never disturbed. Only a type of sheet mulching, you could say, which is, I've just brought in lots of mulches over time. Small bits of chicken forage, wheat kernels. This hugel bed is doing surprisingly well, as fresh as it is. But again, compared to the tilled earth out front that had the compost brought into it, this area looks very vibrant, even through this hot, dry part of the year. These are goji berry, potatoes, another variety of lettuce, cowpeas, dill, radish, lamb's quarter, yellow wood sorrel. Have cucumbers starting here. On the other side there are strawberries. But again, notice this particular grass. And see down inside of there, even, there's carrots growing. So reasons like that, I'm trying not to get too fussy about it and spend a massive amount of time. There's clover and carrots. Because at least in this system, we're not supposed to have to screw with it so much. And if we do, then what I'm seeing, we would get much better results from a traditional garden bed, in fact, where you actually can get some size quality from it. Even the seeds and the plants that are easily self-seeding themselves at this point, many of them seed themselves so thickly in an area, and it requires so much work to thin them that it does indeed stunt the plants. So after 4 years, this is the only tomato plant that has self-seeded itself, and it is doing great back here seemingly. So obviously it's genetics. If I can get it pollinated, if I find another one, which actually, now that I think about it, I think I did see another one recently. And there it is. These 2 plum trees have completely died this year after looking beautiful and brilliant early on in the year. No good. Failure. Grass. I'm not saying a failure, but it feels like it's doing far too much competition. There should be far more seeds sprouting, beneficial seeds. And what I'm getting is a lot of the same stuff. So of the 100 and some species that have been seeded out here, there might be 50 of them being successful. Here's an example of overseeding these burdock, which I was really hoping to utilize as a mulch because they get nice and big. So as a chop and drop biomass, but they seeded themselves so heavily everywhere they were that they never grew to anything potential anyway. So in order to grow any biomass out of them, I would have first had to spend an hour to go through each section like this and crop out all but a few plants. So where's my time savings? And all of the carrots that are in this area are essentially stunted due to this just too thick of a planting. And yes, other people aren't doing much with annuals, I'll give you that. Permaculture is based around perennial agriculture. So the experiment, you could say, that I've been performing for the last few years with trying to incorporate annuals into a permaculture system is being quite unsuccessful. It's producing smaller vegetables, smaller plants, and you get less out of it. These plants have really, been bred for so long to have plenty of room to spread out their roots and grow, that when they're basically put back into a wild system again, they do not thrive. And how long would it possibly take to get those genetics back? Well, who knows? But the wild ones never put off the biggest size fruits anyway. So, after 4 years of trying to avoid any kind of raised bed, typical traditional system, I have made use of these cinder blocks I had laying around and put in these beds here. So I'm going to keep working with, making these beds polycultured and have multiple things growing in them. So I've got the clover, the cabbage, and the marigold, and I'd like to see even more things get planted in there. Then after 4 years of being unsuccessful trying to make these annual tomatoes work in this system, I now have my 6 tomato plants here that I can get back to canning because I miss my tomatoes. I'm definitely not done working with annuals in this system. Some of them are doing just fine. Generally the herbs basically do pretty okay. They can overseed themselves as well. But I am going to start trying incorporating some more individual beds within these permaculture gardens, considering the zoning ramifications. So there'll probably be more of them over there, considering as soon as you put in a bed like that, it's going to require more hands-on care. But that'll enable me to eat more easily, I think, at least in the meantime, as I work on messing with the annuals out here in the perennial beds. It will give me the vegetables that I desire, that I'm missing. And in the meantime, the permaculture gardens themselves will continue to establish the perennials and some of the annuals that seem to fit in with the system. So this is Catalyst Coop. It's hot. I've been gone for a week. Things are just utterly overgrown since I've been gone, and I thought it was a good opportunity to go ahead and show some of these failures that take place and that you might experience yourself. Till next time, go do something with passion in your stride.